Shout out to the LDBC. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding. But you know, you never know. You guys are questioning me now, aren't you? Anyways, let's talk about Eddie Hearn and the card he put on last night. We had a couple of fights. Of course, you had Luis Arias, the main event. You had the co-main event, Jarrell Miller versus Marius Wack. You had some undercard fights like I think that Seldon Cletus fella versus this guy I never heard of. Conor Benn was in the undercard. Conor Benn is a prospect that I am high on. I think Conor Benn is going to be a future champion. The Conor Benn knockout was pretty nice. You know, he looked pretty nice. Conor Benn is a guy I've been talking since my original channel. I think he's been pretty good. He took out the guy. I never heard of the guy he fought. But, you know, Conor Benn is a prospect, so he's going to be fighting these low-level guys, of course, these bums. But, yeah, Conor Benn looked spectacular as normal. I never heard of this Cletus Seldon guy. But he was very aggressive. Paulie Malignaggi kept saying in the commentary, you know, this guy can get outboxed. But, yeah, very aggressive guy. Just wilted his opponent. I don't even remember the guy's name. Then you had the Marius Wack versus Jarrell Miller. Miller did what he always does and still gets nothing but hate by these UK boxing fans. But, you know, whatever. And then, of course, you got Luis Arias versus Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs looked phenomenal. Very technical. He's a thinker. Luis Arias talked all this smack like he was going to knock out Danny Jacobs, and he ran the whole fight. Talk about being a hypocrite. You know, you go around talking all this smack like you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And you don't even try and be aggressive. Well, this is the first card USA bill for Eddie Hearn. How was it? Decent. Nothing special. The main events didn't. I thought Luis Arias, because he was talking so much stuff, I thought he was gonna bring out more than he actually gave. But you know, he was just talking all this smack. I thought Daniel Jacobs looked phenomenal. Can Eddie Hearn take over boxing in America? Is it possible? Anything's possible. But my whole thing is he has to put fights that are more competitive. Like, let's say next he puts, in America, Jarrell Miller versus Marius Wack. Oh, no, excuse me, Jarrell Miller versus Dillian White. That'll be excellent. That'll be excellent. I'll probably go to the fight. Just so when Jarrell Miller beats Dillian White, I could, like, record that live. In the Broccoli Center? Yeah. I think Eddie Hearn is planning on putting Daniel Jacobs with the winner of Billy Joe Saunders and David Lemieux, which is interesting because, you know, Billy Joe Saunders is, I believe, promoted by Frank Warren. And I know they have like a feud, you know, they're both like, they're from the same country, but they're both like enemies. So that'll be interesting. Eddie Hearn Matchroom versus Frank Warren. Of course, David Hayes with a Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya. I think Daniel Jacobs easily outboxes someone like David Lemieux. David Lemieux is a very one-dimensional guy. He's a puncher, but he's one-dimensional. He can be outboxed. Despite the fact that I clown Billy Joe Saunders, I actually think he could beat David Lemieux, and I'm actually picking him to beat him. Unless Billy Joe Saunders gets caught with something, then he'll get KO'd. But if Billy Joe Saunders boxes, because that's all you have to do to beat David Lemieux, box him. And David Lemieux has no heart. So if you get in the trenches with him, you'll beat him up. I think Daniel Jacobs versus Billy Joe Saunders is a good fight. I'll be picking Daniel Jacobs. because I think Daniel Jacobs can probably outbox Billy Joe Saunders. Let's see. This year Daniel Jacobs wasn't active. I mean, he fought twice in like a span of 10 months this year. Daniel Jacobs keeps going around saying, Eddie Hearn is gonna have him active. Let's hope so. Let's see if he fights 3 times a year next year. Yeah, it was a decent card. Did nothing spectacular. I wasn't like, I was just watching the fight, kind of like, okay. To be honest, I was only looking forward to Jarrell Miller fight. I really wasn't looking forward to the Danny Jacobs versus Luis Arias fight because I knew that Luis Arias was not on the same level as Danny Jacobs. So I was like, this is going to be easy. Where I knew it was a mismatch. That's why I kept making videos saying, Luis Arias is going to get exposed and he's going to be humbled. The only thing I got wrong was I thought Daniel Jacobs was going to knock out Luis Arias. He almost did, but Luis Arias, he has these survivor's instincts. He kept holding on to Daniel Jacobs. What Eddie Hearn has to do is he has to get more American fighters under his belt. I saw Eddie Hearn saying that he's not planning on having Daniel Jacobs fight in the UK. He's going to have Daniel Jacobs fights in America, in Brooklyn again, which makes sense because if you want to take over the American market, you're not going to be having an American fighter fight in the UK, right? You want to have those fights happen in America. Look at PBC. PBC had a lot of these good fights, like Keith Thurman versus Sean Porter, which was an excellent fight. Danny Garcia versus Keith Thurman, which is an excellent fight. So I think he has to put competitive fights in America. But I'm fascinated to see what happens with Eddie Hearn. I'm fascinated to see. But it was a decent card. Nothing great. And yeah, I wish Eddie Hearn nothing but the best, guys.